And we're back on Hills Radio, where I am talking to Sarah from the CFS, who's going to tell us all about the Firey Women workshops coming up. Good morning, Sarah. How are you?
I'm really well.
That's
really
good.
well.
Glad
nice
to
be
hear
back.
it. Why are we having special workshops, especially for women?
For Firey Women.
Firey Women, Firey Women, yes.
I have to remember Firey Women. It's a great name, isn't it?
I like it.
I know. When you ask women about, would you like to come to a Firey Women's course, they go, I'm fiery enough. But look, yes, it is a workshop just for women, because what the CFS has realised is that there's differing skills and a knowledge base in when it comes to fighting fires and protecting the home and protecting your property, protecting children and animals. And obviously a lot of that knowledge and skill base does rest with the men, and often the men are off fighting a fire.
So
on
the house
that's right,
with
in
the
these
family,
rural properties.
yeah.
That's exactly right. And so it has been recognised that women need to have a forum where they can learn all this stuff, feel confident about asking what sometimes they think is a really silly question.
There are no silly questions.
There are no silly questions. That's quite right.
Yes.
I do sometimes. So look, it's been a fabulous course, and we just really try and train the women up, because they are often the ones at home alone with children. Yeah.
So they've got to try and manage the kids, probably pets, work out whether they're staying or going, protect the house, do all of those things. And there's only one of them. Because hubby's off doing his thing, yes. CFS thing usually.
Yeah. Well, if not CFS, they might be off on the farm fire unit around their property. Yeah. But look, also what we're starting to recognise, and this is why we're running the courses also in the Adelaide Hills, is because a lot of the time men are actually at work down in the city, and we've got all these little rural properties scattered throughout the Adelaide Hills. I mean, I know for myself I'd probably be in that situation. You know, I've had to adjust my bushfire survival plan to think, well, what if I'm here alone?
Which, you probably would be.
Yeah.
So it's a really good idea to have a plan for that sort of thing happening.
Yeah.
So my next question, and I don't know if we've already answered all of it, what was the impetus for the course?
Well, no, we haven't really answered it. This is the hard bit, really, because sadly it's research, number one, shows us that it's women and children who die in fires. Often die in fires. They panic. They leave their decision to leave far too late. A lot of this research came out of the Port Lincoln fires back in about 2009, and the Wangari fires. And look, tragic case, and I'm sure many people remember, is the grandmother with her grandchildren.
Yes.
And she panicked, and her husband was off fighting the fire, and she ended up leaving with the grandchildren, and of course too late, and got burnt in the car. And even more tragically, Kimberly, is that her house survived, wasn't touched. So the saying that people save houses, but we also say houses save people as well. Yeah. So to be caught in your car must just be the worst place.
Yeah,
the worst place.
I think even though it's much, much bigger, I think it's easier to keep a house safe than a car safe, because you can, there's often, there's hoses, there's water, there's sprinkler systems, and that if you've prepared the house well, then it's going to have a boundary around it.
Well, that's right. And
whereas your car's out on the road, there are lots of trees out on our roads, or next to them.
Well, look, even more importantly, is that you're protected from radiant heat.
That's
because
right.
that's what kills people in their cars.
Yeah.
It's as well as the potential burnover. It's also just the car gets so hot. Yeah. And there was in fact, the husband of the woman, the grandmother who died, we play a very, I guess, poignant. It still gets, used every time you listen to it. It's like, oh my God. But he then went off to find his wife, and tragically, he pretty much got caught in the fire as well. And he describes how the heat of the car, even though he dropped below the window level, which we try and tell people to do just to protect himself from the radiant heat a bit more. Had he had a woolen blanket in the car, which we try and recommend people do, he would have had a tiny bit more protection from the radiant heat. But he describes how the sun visor starts to melt. All the cars start to melt because they're so hot.
And
so
of course,
not
everything
only that,
in modern cars is plastic.
And so you've got the toxic fumes to deal with.
So dripping plastic, toxic fumes, extreme heat.
Yeah. And
not to mention, you'd be really, really scared.
Yeah, absolutely. And he describes how the tops of his ears start melting, and he has to find rags on the floor of the car to put over his ears. His eyelids split and start to melt. It's horrible.
I don't want to hear that.
I know, but this is what we try to teach people. You know, stay out
early.
of your car.
That's it.
I know. You listen to his audio, and it would probably be somewhere on the ABC archives or something, but it really hits home. And we do play these audios to people in our course, because sometimes it's when you hear things directly from someone that you actually...
even worse than your worst
rather than us just standing
imaginings.
up there going blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Not that we go blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, you know what I mean. I have not been caught in a fire.
What you're likely to say when you're standing up there is being caught in a car in the fire is really bad and you could burn and die.
Yes.
Well, that sounds terrible, but you hear the man talking about what actually happened to him, and it's horrific. Absolutely
It is. And, you know, especially being parked next to his wife's car with the grandchildren in who'd already perished, and and look, there must have been a lot of those stories out of Victoria as well.
There probably were,
because we do have a lot of stories and photos of cars in ditches and burnt out, and all sorts of nasty things. So, you know, just tying this back into the course, we do have to try and hit home to start with, just so people
get their attention, make it quite clear that there is a reason for these Firey Women courses.
Yeah, so that was the impetus for it. Long answer.
No, that's okay. When did the program start?
Well, it started after those Wangari fires.
Okay.
I think I said 2009. I'm sorry, that's probably Victoria. I think it's 2005. So, yeah, it was just recognised that women needed a course. And with a lot of these things, I think with the courses I've run or been involved with the running, it is a different dynamic when you've got just women in the room, and it's a really lovely feel. There's just a lot of bonding that goes on.
Nice.
And I think you see lots of nice friendships forming throughout the course. We run them over either a 4-week, one night a week for 4 weeks, or 2 full days. So it's about 12 hours of information that we do deliver. So it's quite intense.
Take your notebook.
Take your notebook. We give you a booklet, and you can write notes and all those sorts of things. And there's practical information. So you work in groups, so there's practical things. But also we try to do a bit of theory, map reading. We bring in a fire pump and get women to start the fire pump.
Awesome.
So, it's a really thorough course. And bushfire survival plan, we get women to actually sit there and put pen to paper.
Good. So you're not just setting it for homework, you're saying, do it now.
Let
us check it.
That's right. So I think we've got about 25 women in our Harndorf course, which we're just about to complete. And seriously, you say at the beginning, how many have a written fire plan? And it's probably about 1 or 2 put up their hands.
I've got a well-rehearsed verbal, not written one. Does that count?
Not as well.
Oh,
and look, I'll explain the reason if we've got time.
We've got plenty of time.
The reason. I was like you. I thought, yes, I've got, I know what I need to do in my head. What we forget to take into consideration is the emotional impact.
Oh, everything falls out of your brain.
Yes.
Yeah, that had happened to me.
Everything falls out of your brain. And look, honestly, and you can just feel yourself, the heightened anxiety, even in the Samson Flat fire. And I do live in Harndorf, and I knew that fire was a long way away.
Yep.
I knew it was. I did not need to actually panic, but by the time they were then asking, you're putting an emergency warning to Balhanna and Oakbank, I thought,
getting closer.
Okay, as the crow flies, I'm 1 kilometre from Balhanna. This is now getting really serious. And look, honestly, I work for them. I'm delivering this information to you too.
You
today.
should be the best at this.
But I've got loads, I've got 6 horses or 7 horses, and what you've got to take into account is the people are ringing you. Like, I had 4 or 5 friends phoning, what do I do? What do we do? And I'm... I won't say what I said in my head.
Go away, I'm busy trying to figure it out myself.
Yes, go away, please. No, because I'm trying to help then. Another friend's phoning saying, look, bring your horses here. And I'm thinking, I don't have time to do that. I've not been caught on the road.
No.
I don't have time to do that. And by this time, I'd already heard, excuse me, the Onkaparinga Valley Road was chock-a-block.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Chock-a-block with horse floats mainly, but, boats and caravans, other people said. And I just thought, oh, no, if this fire does keep coming, those people are just going to be caught there. Not a nice scenario.
So it's not just yourself you have to account for. It's all every other person on the road.
That's exactly
wanting to be on the road
well,
at
and
the same
also
time.
just my plan was written, as I said, my original plan. I'm updating it now because it's winter and I can.
Good time to do it.
Was for my son and daughter to be involved. My husband was home. Well, my daughter was really sick. She had tonsillitis. She was lying in bed, vomiting.
So not only was she completely useless, but she needed extra care.
She needed extra care.
Good
so
on her.
I'm running in and I'm waking her up and I'm saying, next time I wake you up, I don't want any comment. I just want you to get out of bed, get in the car, sort of thing. But I just felt this absolute heightened anxiety. My plan for my horses, I just was going, I should have thought this through better. And then gradually I tried to calm myself down. And I thought, no, I know this plan's going to work. Mm-hmm. I know the paddock's slashed. There's very little fuel in there. I know this plan's going to work. But to have my bushfire plan in my hand and run around my property and start to be able to tick off the points, and I've dot pointed them in priority. I'd also started my plan 2 days earlier by filling all the water containers around my property, emptying bins, filling wheelie bins up. Also, if I lose water, my bore's not going to work. That's how I water my horses. So in the event that the electricity went off and the fire didn't come through and all those nice things you're trying to still think about, I'm still going to have water. But I just couldn't believe, and this had happened twice because there was another much, much smaller fire in my street a year ago, but just to know I had that plan dot pointed on the fridge just made all the difference.
I think it's really interesting that you said you started preparing 2 days before. So had the fire started at that point?
No.
So you were just thinking, okay, we've been given warnings, there's catastrophic days coming up. Yep. I know that I can't do all of this on the day if something should happen, so I will prepare today.
Yep, my bath was filled, the laundry sink was filled. And I would have started, this is the other thing, and I try and teach people this in the course, I actually start the minute I see the temperature's rising. Yeah. So I keep an eye on the temperature, and it doesn't matter if it's not even called a total fire ban. It doesn't matter. I can use that water in the garden. I can use it. Well, actually, I ended up leaving that water from January through to end of February, I think. Okay. I just left it. So it's already there. But yes, I don't wait for the day. I mean, obviously, I'm not doing those finer points. I'm not bringing in the doormat and the dog beds and all those little things.
But the big jobs that can be done ahead of time are already out of the way. Yep. So that's less things that you have to think about. And if people
need to check their gutters, do it at the beginning of a heat wave. Because the amount of people who think that's a good thing to do on a catastrophic day...
It's not even comfortable up there. Even if there was no danger involved, it's uncomfortable being up there in the sun on a catastrophic day.
That's right.
And it's probably windy as well. So
yes, and trying to water down the roof and doing all those things. So, it really is a matter of just thinking ahead about it. So, yeah, that's my plan.
Good. So the workshop involves, obviously, working on your plan, a bit of practical practice in doing things like getting the pump started. What other things does it cover?
Well, look, we start with, as I said, we start with those two fairly heart-rending stories and accounts. But also we talk to women about another woman who saved her property at Port Lincoln. Look, honestly, it was... hers was... I don't think she did have a written plan, but she discusses how... And she did have... And this is interesting in itself. I think she had 4 able-bodied adults with her,
good
and
plan.
a 10-month-old baby that she just had to virtually plonk in a room.
Plonk the kid, yeah.
And hear it cry while they all went about their business, which would be really hard as well.
Yeah, but a crying baby is generally an okay baby.
Yeah, well, that's
short
right.
Term.
That's right. So and she just went into action. Wet the towels, filled the bath. Put the towels under the door. Brought stuff in from outside. Just went into full plan.
Everybody worked at it,
and everyone worked with her.
Yeah.
But what I think is, I think she had the blinds down because she said after about half an hour of just this absolute full-on action, they opened. Because people were coming in to get fresh air. That's right. The people who were fighting the fire were coming back to the house to get the air inside the house.
Wow.
And then they realised, she suddenly realised the fire had passed and the house was still standing and they were all alive, and she's going, oh my God, like, I've saved us. We did it. But what was really interesting in that story is it took 3 to 4 active adults to do it. And that's another thing that we try and really stress to people. Well, overall we stress, but in this course, it is not a sensible thing. We do not recommend one person defending their home. It's almost impossible for one person, and this is why you need the plan to leave early if that's the way it's going to be. So we start with all that, and we also discuss, of course, bushfire behaviour, how fire behaviour works, the 7 keys to survival, and how those 7 keys tie into your bushfire survival plan. And then we try and put pen to paper with the plan. We just discuss property preparation as well, which could lead the vegetation around your property and all those sorts of things. So it is intense. As I say, it's 12 hours of information, and sometimes people look at me, 12 hours?
What do you need 12 hours
12
for?
hours? Yeah.
But it takes, I guess it would take at least 12 hours to learn all of that, to ask your questions, to discuss the things that need to be discussed, to make your plans and to practice the practical things.
Well, that's right. And also the reason we run them now is because, well, number one, I guess it's out of fire season, so a lot of us have this time to do these courses. A lot of work. We do have the time without the threat of us having to race off to be in incident management teams and all those sorts of things. But, it's trying to give people the time to get prepared, to try and, learn that they have to do it. So a year ago, I knew that we desperately needed new gutters. So I thought, right, I'm going to research that and get them up in this winter period. Now, had I not been thinking about that, because I did end up getting some bushfire ones, I just Googled bushfire gutters and they're fabulous. But had I not looked at doing that then, I would have been sort of panicking and trying to get all this done by in summer and not a good time. So
now's the best time to get started.
So now is just such a good time to get your preparation started, and it's so hard to convince people because it's raining.
It's raining. Let's think about bushfires after last night.
Oh, I know.
Bushfires are the last thing on people's minds.
I know, but now is the time. And with this rain, I mean, we know potentially El Niño is on the way back, but this rain will actually bring in a huge amount of growth.
Lovely new
grass.
Growth.
Yes.
Lovely.
Yes, and then with the dryness that we are being warned about,
it's going to be another fun summer.
A doozy season.
Yeah. So what's been your feedback from women who've done the course? How are they feeling about it?
Oh, look, it's been fabulous. It's been fabulous. So much more, that word empower, they feel empowered. There's, little... women just say that they were able to make a decision to leave early, and they hadn't thought about that before. They hadn't thought about all the things they had to do if they were caught home alone. I've got another friend who now, she realises, although she lives in the city, she keeps her horse up in the hills, and she now she's looked for a place down in the city. She's out at Semaphore Way, where there used to be a lot of race horses and harness horses. She's found an old stable block, and the night before a catastrophic day, she'll go up to Wistow, get her horse and take it out there. Now that's a plan.
Leaving early for a horse.
That's leaving early for a horse. But then she knows she's not going to be caught up here.
That's right. So she'll be safe, her horse will be safe, and she's not contributing to that great big traffic pile-up that we saw this summer.
Exactly. So when we say... so when we say what do they get out of it, they're thinking, and they're starting to really recognise and understand the power of a bushfire, and how it can just impact their lives so much, and that's what we want. We want people to start thinking about it and putting pen to paper on a plan. No one can tell us whether is a plan actually going to save my life. We don't know that. We can't say that. It's called a survival plan, but we know research has shown us that when people I should say in this case, they have a plan, do have a much, much higher chance of survival.
That's great. Yeah. Last words.
Last words already.
We've still got about 5 minutes, so you can talk for another 5 minutes if you want.
Oh my gosh. Now, that's easy for me.
which is good.
Oh, dear.
And here was you thinking we'd have to play a couple of songs in the middle.
Gosh,
no way.
Well, no, what I just wanted to say is, look, it is, as I say, Firey Women season. I'm just completing one in Harndorf, but I have another one starting in Meadows. And we, as I say, run them either 4 nights or two consecutive days. Or weekend days. But this one, we've had some feedback. We're running it on the 14th of June and then again on the 21st of June. So 2 Sundays in a row.
I saw that advertised yesterday.
Oh,
yes.
Right. Yes. So 2 Sundays in a row. We've been very lucky. The Meadows Primary School have just said, yes, you can use our meeting room. So it'll be nice and warm, not some cold hall.
Good.
So that if people are interested in that one, they can just go onto the CFS website and have a look at that, and it's all up there on our Facebook page as well. And so that one's coming up next. I'm also going to be running one in Strathalbyn, and so I haven't quite got a date for that, but I think we'll be doing weeknights over in June.
Okay.
And that'll be a weeknight. Now, people are also organising them for the Malang area, for Vivon Bay or Pandana on Kangaroo Island, Victor Harbour, Yankalilla, and the Lenswood Forest Range area. So
it doesn't
all
matter
I can
where you
urge,
are.
yeah, we're trying to really sort of get them out there. So if people would just like to check the website, the CFS website, and or just phone the office number that's probably listed on there, or just. Do you want me to give the number?
Give us the number.
So it's 8212-9858, and you can just ask.
I've got a question. If I live in Meadows, but the June one doesn't work for me time-wise, but I can get to the Lenswood one, is that okay?
Or Strathone, yes, absolutely.
Okay,
yes,
so
yes.
It doesn't matter which one you go to. It doesn't have to be your local neighbourhood one.
No.
Fantastic.
From the Harndorf one, I've had them from Macclesfield to Belair to wherever.
Awesome.
The knowledge is all the same.
Good. That's what we need to know. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming in. We didn't get much biodiversity chat going, but
no, we didn't.
I love the idea of the Firey Women's workshop.
So, thank you.
Yeah,
and look, thanks for giving us the opportunity to really talk about them.
That's good. That's what we're here for. That's what we're here for.